Hey everybody, it's Michelangelo Caruso. I'm on with my good pal Sam Abu Hamdan today. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing well. How are you, Mike?
And when I ask Sam how he's doing, I mean it, man, because this guy is just now coming back from a devil called COVID-19.
Yep.
I when I found out you were sick, I of course wanted to wish you and did wish you and the family the best. And I'm so glad we get a chance to talk online here because I think a lot of people misunderstand how this illness comes on. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about how it manifests. And then now we're having challenges with the political ramifications and the economic ramifications, and we're kind of forgetting about the actual pain of going through this. And so I'm glad you're with us today to kind of take us through this.
Thank you, Michael. Glad to be
Uh,
here.
Thank you. Before we get started, everybody, if you have comments or you want to share this video, you're welcome to. I have the good fortune of interviewing interesting people like Sam on this YouTube channel. You want to subscribe to the channel and ring that silver bell to be notified of new videos. And let's get the word out about COVID-19 and what this means to society. And let's do better with it next time. I haven't met a single person, Sam, that hasn't thought we could have done something a little bit better. This is called the novel coronavirus. Novel means new. And a lot of people don't know this. When we say COVID-19, it's not the 19th iteration or the 19th version of it. It's called 19 because it was discovered in 2019.
That's
Right?
right. Yep.
Walk us through your illness, man. How did it happen? Uh, now, just for the calendar's sake, this is April 16th.
16.
It's a
16.
Thursday. When did you first notice symptoms? Take us back.
So I got to look at my calendar to remember that now, but I can tell you it on the 13th of March, 3 days after we discovered the first two cases in the state of Michigan. We decided to shut down the office and send everybody home. So Friday the 13th, we decided to we announced it. I said, don't come back to work on Monday. Go home and wait until further notice.
Right.
The 14th, like everybody else during that time in Michigan, probably had decided to go out and just make sure that they overstock on groceries and everything. So I did that, and that's where I think I probably most likely have gotten the virus, because I went to like 3 different places that day, and every single one I went to was overcrowded. Nobody was wearing masks at that time. That was March 14th. Um, and I think, I mean, I was trying to take precautions and wipe down my cart, making sure that I don't touch a whole lot of things. But it's in crowded places, you never know.
Right.
Uh, the That whole week after that, starting the 16th on, I think the 16th at night, that's when in Michigan, Governor Whitmer had issued the executive order for the shelter in place, and everybody was at home anyway. So we never left home. So I did not see symptoms until the Saturday after. So that would have been the 21st,
Yeah.
21st of March. That's when I kind of started feeling some body aches. Checked my temperature. It was a little kind of like what you call a low grade temperature, right? It was 99.5,
Right.
under, but the body aches were terrible. Sunday, I spent most of the day sleeping. I just like didn't have the energy. My body aches were so much. The painful. Monday, I felt a little better. Tuesday, I felt okay. Wednesday it just came back, and I just like felt the lack of energy, and it was. I said I'd better go and check it, so I went to my doctor's here, my the clinic, or family doctor that we usually go to, and the doctor said, "I think you have it." I
Now,
said,
he said, I think this is before a test.
Correct. That's just first visit to the doctor.
But everything I've heard you, and I'm no doctor, but everything you, and this is important because a lot of people trying to self-diagnose and uh, guess at what's really happening here. That's been the whole thing. Can you get tested? And not for nothing. Once you get tested, there is no real regime for this. It's just knowing that you're infected. You stay home, which I think is what the magic of the shelter at home anyway is, that we're going to treat everybody like they have it.
Exactly.
So when the
Exactly.
doctor said, "I think you have it," it's okay if he's wrong about that because everybody's going to have to act kind of the same way anyway. But you must have said something to him.
Her.
You,
Yeah. It was her, a female doctor, but she said based on the symptoms that I described to her, that's what she said she thinks I had it. So she examined me at that point, and she said, "I'll send you to the urgent care. I think they said you might not qualify to be tested. If you remember, those were the early days where we didn't have enough test kits." And she said, but maybe they will. So she called them right from her office, and she described the situation and my age. She said, "I don't have any underlying, reason, but she felt like I should be tested."
how old are
So
you, Sam? Remind us.
55.
And by the way, when you mentioned the governor, we're in Michigan, everybody. So our governor is Gretchen Whitmer. She's been in the news a lot lately. We'll get to that in a minute. But all the states have handled this kind of differently. South Dakota still does not have a shelter at home, even though this pork plant was shut down a couple days ago. It produces 5% of the pork, but they had did you hear about this? A high
Yeah.
ratio of employees that were sick.
100, yeah.
So they created this hotspot just within their own company.
Yes.
Even though the state didn't have a shutdown policy for the state, the mayor lobbied the company to shut down. Bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah.
Continue with your story. I'm interested. And before we do, we all know that by now COVID is a respiratory ailment. Why the aches and pains? I've been reading about this, but I don't know, medically speaking, why it causes aches and pains in the joints and stuff.
I'm not a doctor either, but I believe it's just it's a flu-like type virus, and that's just one of the symptoms. And the interesting thing is actually it affects people differently. From what I heard and people that I've talked to and my doctor, it just different people kind of have different symptoms, which is kind of tricky, and it makes the medical diagnosis is harder too. So there's a lot of kind of like guess game, right? Unless you get tested, even with tests. I mean, I have a friend of mine that I just heard this week that she got tested, and she's showing symptoms like mine, and her test came back negative. And apparently, her doctor didn't believe that because she's showing symptoms, and it's been over a week, and she doesn't believe it's the flu, and she believes it's COVID-19. So she's treating her as if she has COVID-19, and she told her that tests are given or have been about 30% testing kind of false negative.
30%.
Yes, and which is kind of scary also in itself.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
So back to the symptoms for a second. You said that we would talked offline a bit about the symptoms. I don't remember you mentioning fever and sweats and stuff. Did you get that?
The first week was low grade temperature, right?
Okay.
Probably about didn't cross 100. It wasn't until the second week, right? So as I said, back to the timeline. So kind of like Wednesday, I believe it was the 25th,
Right.
and that's when I got tested. I got the results 2 days later on Friday the 27th, and it came back positive. Immediately I went under quarantine. The whole family went under quarantine. Each one of us lived in a separate area of the house. And it was hard, mostly hard for my wife because she had to kind of, make the food, make sure that, everything is sanitized and taken care of. And she's leaving the food outside the door and not trying not to touch anything. So that was the hardest part for 2 weeks for all of us. But the second week, starting that second weekend, that's when I started getting higher fever. It started crossing 100. It went as high as 102. And that's when I started also feeling the tightness in the chest. And that's when things kind of started going downhill because I got stressed out over it. I mean, I was panicking, right? Because I didn't want to go to the hospital. I was trying to fight as much as I can not to go to the hospital. My doctor at that time started doing what they call telemedicine, right? So she started calling me every day, setting up this video call, and going through kind of like examining me, asking me questions, making sure that things are going okay. One of the things that we were lucky. I thought about getting one of these oxygen saturation meters, and we found one that
Is that a clip on the finger?
actually, yeah, I have it right here. It's one of these things in here, and you just put your fingers in one end, and it starts kind of showing you the saturation and the pulse, which was good because I was feeling the tightness in the chest, but I didn't want to get scared that I go to the emergency room. I wanted some kind of number that I go by. And my doctor said that was a good thing because the magic number is kind of like 90%. You don't want to go below 90%.
Explain 90%. 90% oxygen, 90% what? Capacity?
90% oxygen saturation in your blood.
Okay. So I've had in my life, I'm trying to relate to this, and I know people are going to have questions, and so I'm trying to ask questions for them too. I've had in my life maybe two, what I could best describe as panic attacks, where I had trouble breathing. They were separate and apart. Haven't had one for a long time. Don't even know what brought them on. I must have been having some stressful things going on in my life. It is terrifying when you can't breathe.
It is.
What are you saying that with this number, because it's a head game, once you realize you're having trouble breathing, you go into panic mode, which causes more breathing problems.
That's
but
right.
The number was a way of rooting you in reality. Yes?
Absolutely. That helped a lot because I mean, I've had panic attacks too in my life more than twice, and they are not fun. And so this, just the thought of that you can't breathe, right?
Yeah.
And I tried to get out of my doctor. It's just like, okay, how would you define when do you go to the emergency room or the hospital? And one of the things that they mentioned to me is just like, okay, if you get out of bed and you wanted to go to the bathroom and can't make it to the bathroom, that's an indication that you need to go to the emergency room.
Because and I thought you physically don't have the stamina or the wherewithal or the breath to walk a few steps.
Correct. Okay. And I never had that trouble, but I can feel the tightness in my chest. And I again, with the oxygen saturation meter was really very helpful. I kept it right next to my bed. It was a wireless unit, so you can charge it and just keep it next to you. Yeah. And it was very helpful because I can see the numbers kind of dipping down in the low 90s. I would try to take very, very deep breaths, and the number will start going up.
They've used a similar technique on mountain climbing, because these guys go on to the mountains and they start climbing and the oxygen becomes thinner.
Sure.
And they panic Same basic problem, tightness in the chest. I can't breathe. I'm going to go back down. I just can't make it. But they've all paid a lot of money to be up there, and the guides know this. So they run their numbers, probably with that same damn meter, and say,
Sure.
"Oh, your numbers are good. Let's keep going."
Yep. Yep.
Because you could easily psych yourself out no matter what you're doing, laying in bed at night all alone, which you
Yeah.
were, wherever you
Yeah.
were, in the basement or whatever,
Yeah.
or you're on Mount Everest getting ready to summit.
Yeah.
You also mentioned, by way of symptoms, headaches,
Oh yeah.
which you described as the most severe, persistent, like headaches 24/7. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and those also happened the second week. So along with the tightness of the chest and the hard breathing, I think it was that Tuesday, the 20 whatever 31st. That was when I had my first headache, uh, and I didn't think much of it until it just lingered on. It kept going and going nonstop from Tuesday until the Monday after.
Wow.
And that was the worst headache. I don't usually have migraines. I do not get them. But from what was described to me before, they sound like, or they felt like migraine headaches. And it was very bad. As it turned out, when I mentioned that to my doctor, she said, "Yeah, that's a symptom of COVID-19." The one thing in the back of her mind that was a concern was encephalitis, because there were some rare cases where COVID-19 have caused encephalitis in the brain, where you had some hemorrhage of some blood that comes that causes some pressure on the brain, and that's also all because of your body really kind of trying to react to the virus. So you have these I think it's called cytokines, yeah, that your body produces in order to kind of fight the virus, or the whatever your body is being attacked by. And sometimes if you produce too much of them, it would cause that hemorrhage, and it would cause the pressure on the brain, and then the encephalitis and the headaches is a result of that. So she was constantly, every day when she was calling me when I was complaining about my headache for that during that second week, trying to do the neurological kind of exam and test me if I was showing any sign of encephalitis, and kind of like the balance, the walking, the neck, the flexibility of the neck. That's all of these things were kind of neurological signs that I could have had another problem, which would mean also that I had to go to the hospital.
Right.
But luckily, there wasn't any kind of sign of imbalance, or couldn't walk, or any pain in my neck, or stiffness where I couldn't move my head. She had me kind of go my head sideways and up and down. And balance my arms in front of me while my eyes are closed. All these kinds, just to make sure that I didn't have any neurological issues.
Now, were you taking any meds, Tylenol, ibuprofen, aspirin? What do you take for COVID-19?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because apparently you're not supposed to take any of the ibuprofens or any of the NSAIDs. Tylenol was the only thing that you should be using to, according to my doctor, to kind of control the temperature,
Okay.
fever. When I had the headaches, my doctor wanted to put me on some narcotics. And I kind of didn't want that either, because of the opioids and everything else. But I wanted to kind of stay on the Tylenol and see if it can at least take the edge off. But it was hard, especially after the second and third day.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking the narcotics that she just prescribed me, very low dosage of tramadol. And that's like 50 milligrams, and that helped take the edge off.
Yeah.
Much better than the Tylenol.
People say that nighttime is the worst. Would you concur?
I would, yes.
What is it about nighttime?
I'm not sure. I think in the morning you probably wake up after you sleep if you can get some sleep. You are resting, maybe or have rested and have some more energy, and maybe you can go through it'll help you go through the day. But by the end of the night, maybe you just had it, right? I don't know for sure. I
Tell
can't.
us about the sleeping on the stomach. That was a real find for you and others. I've heard this.
Yes, so that helped with the tightness of the chest. The my doctor had mentioned somebody at St. Joe. My doctor is St. Joe doctor, and she said that she had gotten some feedback from some of the ICU doctors that sleeping on the stomach helped kind of reduce the tightness in the chest. And so I started doing that. But it's kind of hard to kind of sleep on your chest when all night long. Well, maybe some people can, but I couldn't. I usually move a lot at night myself, and I
Right.
would start out on my chest, and I would turn and turn. But during the day, when I was awake and I can control it, I try to kind of sleep on my stomach as much as I can. It does help. And the explanation for that is just like it kind of helps expand your lungs, kind of like in your rib cage, and it kind of opens them up a little more and
Yeah.
reduces the pressure and
So, watching a video of a doctor explaining why this is true, and he said, well, the rib cage protects the lungs, but there's not that similar protection in the back. So when you lay on your back, you actually are pressing down on your lungs, and you need all that real estate when you can't breathe. So by moving down onto your belly, uh, lungs, which I didn't know this, they go all the way up almost to the collarbone and all the way
Mm,
down to your belt line. Lungs
mm,
are really long,
mm.
and it just helps you get you that much more real estate, I guess, so that you can be comfortable at night.
Yeah, and that definitely, yeah, that explanation. I mean, it makes sense, and it helped for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk now about what's going on because although I was, as your friend, I'm intensely interested in your recovery and your good health. You're part of a microcosm of this giant monster called COVID-19. We're well into it now. It's, as we mentioned earlier, it's April 16. There
Yep.
are over 2 million active cases globally, 671,000 in the United States. The curve is still going like this. It's interesting how few people seem to understand math and how it works. Oh, exponential means it's like Greek for really fast, everybody. So when we talk about exponential growth, what a lot of people are doing, Sam, they're looking at the how many cases were added, say, since yesterday. But that's addition. Exponential growth is multiplication. It's a much different curve. And that's why the social distancing has some values, because if we can get people to stop from spreading it, so it's not medicine, it's not testing, at least right now, and it's not a vaccination that's going to pull us out of this. It's that distance combined with time. Based on everything that you're learning, would you agree, or do you have a different viewpoint?
For now, yes, with a lack of vaccination and any other solution for it, that seems to be the best way to stop the spread.
So what do
Um,
you think about this now we're bumping up public health versus private practice? People deciding for themselves, well, no, we've done this long enough. I need to get back to work, or we need to open up the country is the big phrase we're hearing everyone using. If politicians do too much, they're criticized for that. If they don't do enough, they're criticized.
yeah.
What's your viewpoint now, based on having gone through this and the terror of it, and really seeing this at ground zero? And I don't mean to politicize our conversation here, but it has other ramifications: politics, economics. Where is your head now that you've actually recovered from COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, the 2.5 weeks that I've suffered from this illness, it was not fun. And I am a healthy guy, don't have any underlying diseases or anything like this. I
You're
exercise.
not high risk based on your age and health background.
Right, and I was exercising every day, eat right, don't smoke or vape or do anything, right?
No.
And it knocked me out. It took the wind out of my sails. So I can imagine how hard it is for somebody that is older or somebody that has an underlying reason or medical reason that it's scary.
Yeah.
It you could die or have some really serious medical conditions. So it's the price that we would have to pay, and people have to understand that as the if we want to open up the country so that we can improve the economy. I'm all for improving the economy, but at what price?
Yeah.
If
It's interesting too that the it seems to me like a lot of the people that are thinking that we should abandon the protocol and get back to work. None of them have been sick, certainly, because if they had been sick, they would understand the terror,
yes,
and they haven't lost anybody. So it's like, and I don't wish that they would lose somebody or get sick, but how can we help people understand, the reality of the situation? And by the way, for the cynics watching, and I know we're going to get some comments on this. Yeah, Sam was down for 2 weeks, and yeah, that's the price we pay, and he didn't die, did he? And all those things we're going to see in comments, all meant with love, I'm sure, Sam. Uh, but the thing is that to have this many people sick at the same time is the game changer, right? This is not the regular flu. Yeah, a lot of people get sick. A lot of people die from the flu. If one more person compares how many people die from the flu to this COVID-19 thing, that's not what we're comparing. That's apples to oranges. It's
right.
when everybody gets sick at the same time that causes problems.
Absolutely, and we like here in Michigan again, we got close to that where hospitals were at capacity, right?
Yep.
And I can tell you there is an example that happened right in my family too, where my wife's uncle is suffering from a severe stage 4 cancer, and he was scheduled to go in surgery, and they had to postpone his surgery 4 times. He still can go under surgery because of the capacity problem. He can't get even a stress test done at the hospital because it took going through hoops to get a stress test done because he needed to have that before the surgery. So it's really what you're talking about is creating that stress on the whole medical system, that is not just the people that have COVID-19, but people or could be at risk with or that contracted it or whatever. But it's also all these other people that need the surgery, and it's life-threatening, that now they have to pay the price for it too.
Yeah, it sounds like your relative's situation is life threatening
It
and
is.
serious, and he's been postponed 4 times. I'm also thinking about people who had, because I don't exactly know what elective surgery is. I think elective surgery, and I think about plastic surgery to pull your skin back on your face or something. But what about people, for example, that had colonoscopies scheduled because the doctors were keeping an eye on something that looked like it was precancerous? How much longer are they going to live, possibly, with cancer going to work on their colon every day?
Right.
What are the ramifications of this? We're both members of Troy Rotary in Michigan, everybody, and one of our fellow Troy Rotarians, Scott Harrell, is a funeral director here in town. He was just on the news today, interviewed by one of the TV stations, Sam. I posted it in the club Facebook page.
Okay.
And they're starting to stack up. We're seeing terrible pictures of people's bodies being stacked up in storerooms and refrigerator trucks outside, in hospital loading zones. So this is the kind of thing that we're just not prepared for. But I see us getting more prepared for stuff like this in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, I mean, you asked earlier about kind of like what is the solution and what can we do? I mean, because again, people want to get back to their normal life, whatever that new norm is going to be.
Yep.
But I think there is a way that a lot of people now that are recovering, like myself, hopefully we can get this antibody test spread, have enough of it going around so that we can test people. I mean, I'm planning on donating my plasma right away so that we could start helping other people. And I think there are a lot of people like myself that probably will do that, and we can gradually kind of start bringing the country back to normalcy, whatever that is again. And I think people that have recovered, people that got tested and they have the antibody because maybe they showed some symptoms, but they didn't really didn't affect them too much. All these people, and there's a good number of them, can start going back. And the ones that have underlying reason and they are at risk or high risk, I think those should be very careful going back or not go back at all, and try to work from home as much as possible until a vaccine is discovered. Because again, the price that we have to pay is you're going to pay the price with your life. And so is that a choice that you want to take or make?
There's been a lot of talk about the right way to bring the economy back. And I'm distrustful of anybody that seems like they have all the right answers the first time we go through something. It doesn't seem possible.
Right.
But staging it seems to make sense.
I think
a lot of people that want to go back to work, and I'm like, well, wouldn't it be interesting if you worked really hard to get your business up and running and nobody came in?
That's
because
true.
you were too early or because people didn't feel safe. I'm as a professional speaker, I can tell you I've had dates canceled for October and November.
Wow.
And we're talking about losing the entire baseball season. The mayor of Los Angeles said he doesn't see concerts or anything like that happening in the rest of the year, the balance of the year. So I encourage everybody to have some patience here. And I know you're all thinking, yeah, I've been patient and I'm done being patient. But science doesn't care what you think, ladies and gentlemen. And we have to figure this out and do what's best for everybody. And I don't pretend to have all the answers. But I hope by speaking with my friend Sam, somebody that's actually recovered from the illness just recently, that you've got a better perspective about what exactly is going on. Not what approximately is going on, but what exactly is going on.
Yes.
Sam, where are you on the scale of 1 to 10? Are you 100%, 90%, 80%?
I would say 90%. I still feel the tightness of the chest. Very like if I have to talk for a little too long, I have to stop mid sentences and take a breath. I tried to take a walk on last Sunday, and as I said, I usually exercise every day. I tried to take like a couple mile walk around the subdivision here. The last half mile was a stretch, and I could feel it. I was breathing heavy, and
I know that you're back to work now. You're feeling better. You're
yes.
quasi quarantine now with your beautiful family. I'm getting a sense you might be at a stand-up desk right now. Is that true?
I am at a stand-up desk. Yes, I usually
So
work.
glad to see you're up and about in a literal sense.
Yes.
Well, I love you, man. I'm so glad that you're feeling better, and welcome back.
Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate it. Hopefully this, as I mentioned to you earlier, Michael, even before I had the sickness, and I wondered what does it feel like, from a survivor point of view. So I'm hoping that this had helped answer some questions and have help some
I'm sure
people.
it will. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate you. Stay well, man. I hope to see you soon, okay?
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.